99% don't realize they shadow chosen ones in disguise. Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt there was someone else staring back at you? Not a stranger, not a ghost, but a deeper version of yourself, something ancient, watching and waiting. Most people don't realize this, but they are walking through life blindfolded, unaware that they've been chosen not in the grand, glamorous sense that movies show, but in the quiet, chaotic, soul-wrenching way that the universe chooses its warriors. They are the shadow chosen ones in disguise. And I know, because I was one of them. Maybe, so are you. See, we live in a world obsessed with light. Light is celebrated love, positivity, enlightenment. But what if I told you that the real transformation doesn't happen in the light? It begins in the shadow. The dark night of the soul, the breakdowns, the betrayals, the days when you feel like the universe forgot you exist. Those are not punishments. They're invitations. You weren't abandoned. You were being initiated.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's go deeper. Have you ever wondered why your life feels different? Why things fall apart, no matter how hard you try to keep them together? Why you see patterns no one else sees or feel things too deeply? You might think you're broken. You're not. You're being broken open. The universe doesn't birth a chosen one through comfort. It births them through chaos. And not everyone is meant to know this, but you're not here by accident. You're listening because on some level, your soul remembers. Now, let me tell you something wild, something most people will never dare to believe. 99% of shadow chosen ones never wake up. They live their whole lives resisting the very pain meant to awaken them. They numb it, run from it, or get swallowed by it. But the 1%, those who lean in, who listen, who walk through the fire instead of running from it, they become something else. They don't just survive, they alchemize. They transform the shadow into power. And that's where you come in. I think back to your hardest moment, the moment that almost broke you. What if I told you that moment was sacred? That the pain wasn't a punishment but a prophecy? You see, the universe doesn't waste suffering. It recycles it into power. But only if you let it. That pain you carry, the one part of you that you hide from the world that's not your weakness. That's your womb of rebirth. It's the place you'll rise from, if you choose to. But here's the thing. Being a shadow chosen one isn't about being saved. It's about learning to save yourself. No one's coming to rescue you, not your family, not your friends, not even the angels. Because the whole point is to realize that the power you've been begging for outside of you has been sleeping inside of you all along. And the moment you stop waiting and start walking, everything changes. The world bends to the will of the awakened. Still, there's a reason so few walk this path. Because it's not pretty. It's not sexy. It's not filled with constant miracles and good vibes. No, it's war. War with your conditioning. War with your illusions. War with the version of you that was programmed to stay small, quiet, and afraid. But let me ask you this. Who would you be if you were no longer afraid of yourself? That's the real question. Because being a shadow chosen one means confronting the parts of yourself you've buried, the rage, the shame, the grief, the guilt. You must face them like a warrior, not to destroy them, but to love them into wholeness. You don't conquer your shadow by fighting it. You become whole by integrating it. You make peace with your demons, and in doing so, you realize they were never demons. They were fragments of your soul, waiting to come home. Now, I want to tell you a secret. The universe hides your power in the one place you're scared to look inside your wounds. That's why your life keeps circling back to the same pain. It's not a glitch. It's a message. A map. And only the brave dare to read it. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every failure, it's not just trauma. It's training. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The truth is, you're not who you think you are. You're not your name, your job, your title. You are something ancient, something cosmic, a soul wrapped in skin, here to do what only you can do. And the universe will keep shaking your world until you remember. Because your gifts are not found in your comfort zone. Your power is buried in the rubble of your ruined plans. So let me ask you again, what if everything that went wrong in your life was actually going right? What if you're not falling apart, but falling into alignment? What if your suffering isn't a curse, but a calling? I remember the moment I realized I was one of them. It wasn't grand. It wasn't beautiful. It was in a tiny room, surrounded by silence, after I lost everything I thought mattered. I sat in the dark, shaking, numb. And in that silence, something whispered not with words, but with presence. It said, "Now you're ready." And I broke, not down, but open. That's when I realized the darkness wasn't there to destroy me. It was there to deliver me. You don't need to search for signs anymore. This is your sign. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not too much. You're exactly enough. And the reason you've always felt different is because you are different. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to awaken. And now the time has come. But awakening isn't a moment. It's a movement. It's a daily death of who you were and a daily rebirth of who you're becoming. Every day you wake up and choose to stand in your truth, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. That's sacred. That's powerful. That's you stepping into your destiny. So remember this, you are the answer you've been seeking. You are the miracle you've been praying for. And you are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. Stop playing small. Stop hiding your light. And stop waiting for someone to give you permission. You were born for this. And the world is waiting. Now, are you ready to remember why you came here? The hidden blueprint of divine disruption. There's a sacred chaos we never talk about. Not the loud kind that breaks buildings, but the silent kind that breaks illusions. It's easy to think that when your life falls apart, when relationships crumble, when you lose direction, when the things that once made you feel secure start slipping through your fingers, that something is wrong. But what if that's the moment everything is finally starting to become right? What if disruption isn't destruction, but divine architecture? When you're chosen in the shadows, your life doesn't follow the path others take. It's not linear. It spirals. It unravels. And it does so with precision. Divine disruption is not random. It's a blueprint written in the soul before you even arrived in this body. Every detour, every heartbreak, every failure, it's all been orchestrated to unearth the parts of you that were buried under the weight of expectations, fear, and false identities. You didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to be cracked open. We've been trained to see chaos as the enemy, but in the deeper currents of reality, chaos is intelligence. It's the sacred force that rips away what no longer serves us. It's the divine storm that strips us of everything false so we can finally see what's real. And when that storm hits, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock politely. It floods the house. It tears down the walls. And if you're not prepared, you'll think you're being punished. But nothing could be further from the truth. You're being reborn. I think about it. Has there ever been a moment of real growth in your life that didn't first come from pain, from loss, from letting go? We fight so hard to hold on to what's crumbling because we don't realize that the collapse is part of the design. You weren't meant to build your kingdom on sand. You were meant to rise from rock. And sometimes, the only way to get to the foundation of who you really are is for the illusion of who you thought you were to be completely dismantled. There's a deeper intelligence behind your suffering, a hidden blueprint. And while the ego screams in resistance, the soul knows, the soul remembers. It whispers, trust the fall, trust the fire, trust the silence. But we've been taught to fear silence, to fill the void with noise, distraction, anything but presence. Yet it's in the silence where the real codes are delivered. The ones that unlock your next evolution. The ones that remind you you are not lost, you are being led. But how do we shift from fear to trust when everything we thought was stable is being pulled away? We do it by surrendering the illusion of control. We do it by remembering that the universe doesn't waste energy. Your pain is not pointless. Your delays are not denials. Your detours are not mistakes. They are recalibrations, solvable redirections meant to bring you into alignment with your true path. And alignment doesn't always feel good, but it is always true. You see, being a shadow chosen one doesn't mean your life will be easy. It means your life will be real, raw, unfiltered. You'll be asked to go where others won't, to feel what others numb, to remember what others forget. That's why your path is different. That's why you felt like an outsider, because your soul signed up for something deeper. You didn't come here to play by the rules of the Matrix. You came to dissolve them. But let's be honest, this path is lonely. Not because you're alone, but because few understand the weight you carry. You see the world differently. You hear what's not said. You feel energy before words are spoken. You walk into rooms and sense the hidden pain in people's smiles. And because of that, you often feel out of place. But what if that's the point? What if your sensitivity isn't a flaw, but a spiritual superpower? What if the very things you were told made you too much are the signs that you're carrying light codes for the collective dark? I want you to sit with something right now. What if your life isn't breaking down but breaking open? What if this divine disruption is the only way to get you to remember who you really are? You didn't come here to sleepwalk through life. You came to wake the world up. And to do that, you had to be cracked open first. You had to feel the depths so you could rise with clarity. Because you can't guide others through a storm you've never walked through yourself. And here's the paradox: the deeper your descent, the higher your potential rise. The more you've suffered, the more you're capable of holding light. That's the hidden law no one tells you. Shadow chosen ones are not chosen because they're perfect. They're chosen because they've endured, because they've tasted the ashes and still chose to rise, because they've seen the worst and still believe in beauty. That's the mark of someone who carries the blueprint of divine disruption in their bones. So the next time your world begins to shake, don't resist it. Listen. Ask, what old identity is being stripped away? What truth is being revealed beneath this chaos? What version of myself is being born in this fire? Because that's the initiation. That's the moment the universe leans in and says, are you ready to see what's been hidden in plain sight? Are you ready to become who you were always meant to be? And if your answer is yes, then the real journey begins. Becoming the oracle of your own awakening. There comes a moment on the path of the shadow chosen one when you stop seeking answers outside yourself. Not because you've given up, but because you've finally realized the source of truth isn't in books, gurus, or systems, it's in you. You become the oracle, the mystic, the channel. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you've suffered enough to see clearly. You've endured enough silence to finally hear your soul's voice. And that voice, it's been whispering the whole time. You just never knew how to listen. The world is loud. It tells you who you should be, how you should live, what success looks like. It conditions you to outsource your power, to look to experts, to follow paths already paved. But a shadow chosen one isn't here to follow. You're here to forge. Your awakening doesn't come from fitting in, it comes from standing alone long enough to remember your own frequency. That's the moment you stop echoing the world and begin vibrating your own truth. Becoming the oracle means learning to sit in the void without trying to escape it. It means letting go of needing to explain yourself, because truth doesn't beg to be believed. It simply is. You begin to trust the knowing that lives in your body more than the logic that lives in your mind. You no longer need validation because you become your own confirmation. That's the real awakening, not some mystical climax, but the quiet, steady realization that you were always it. But how do you get there? You get there by dying daily, not physically but energetically. You allow old versions of yourself to fall away. The people pleaser, the perfectionist, the one who thought they had to earn love, prove their worth, beg for belonging. You bury those masks with reverence, not resentment, because even those false selves were trying to protect you. But now, they've done their job, and it's time to step into something truer. You begin to see that your suffering wasn't random, it was ritual. Every heartbreak carved space for deeper compassion. Every failure stripped away illusions. Every betrayal was a mirror, showing you where you were still betraying yourself. That's the wisdom of the oracle, to read between the lines of life, to see the code behind the chaos, to understand that nothing is just what it seems. Everything is a message. Everything is medicine. And yet, this level of awareness isn't always glamorous. In fact, it can be isolating. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to small talk, shallow dreams, or fake smiles. You crave depth. You crave authenticity. You crave connection that feels like home to your soul, not just comfort to your ego. And sometimes, that means walking away from everything familiar. Not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for yourself and for the path you're here to walk. The oracle within you doesn't scream. It doesn't beg to be heard. It whispers. It shows up in your intuition, in synchronicities, in the way your body tightens when you're out of alignment or softens when you're getting closer to your truth. It's the part of you that just knows, even when you can't explain why. And the more you trust it, the louder it becomes. Guidance flows like breath. Answers arrive without effort. You stop chasing and start allowing. But here's the part few talk about. When you become the oracle, you also become a mirror. Your very presence reflects truth to others, and not everyone will like that. Some will be drawn to your light. Others will be triggered by it. Because when you stand in your authenticity, you force people to confront where they've been hiding from theirs. And that's not your burden to carry. You're not here to convince anyone. You're here to be. So ask yourself this: what would change if you fully trusted your inner knowing? What would shift if you stopped asking for signs and started becoming the sign? What power would awaken if you stopped dimming your truth to make others comfortable? You already have the answers. You always did. But awakening is not about adding more. It's about stripping away everything that's not you, so what is you can finally breathe. You're not lost. You're layered. And every layer you peel back brings you closer to the core, pure, wild, sacred self. You are the oracle, not someday. Now, not when you're healed. Now, not when you feel ready. Now. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your original frequency. Speak it. Live it. Be it. The final flame rising from the ashes of who you were. There comes a moment in every shadow chosen one's journey when they no longer grieve the past, no longer fear the unknown, and no longer resist the fire. They walk into it, not to be consumed, but to be refined, to be stripped of everything false. Because by now, they understand something sacred. The fire was never here to destroy them. It was here to reveal them. And when you rise from that fire, you don't rise as who you were, you rise as who you were always meant to be. Rising from the ashes is not about rebuilding, it's about rebirthing. Rebuilding implies returning to something familiar. But rebirth, that's creation from nothing. That's stepping into the unknown and declaring with your whole soul, I trust what's becoming more than I mourn what was. The final flame burns away the last remnants of attachment, not just to people or outcomes, but to identities you didn't realize you were still clinging to. It burns away the guilt, the shame, the fear that maybe you're not enough, and leaves behind only the raw, eternal truth of your being. But this stage is quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need applause. It's the deep inhale after grief, the stillness before the dawn. You're not proving anything anymore. You're not seeking to be seen. You are the seeing. You've become the witness to your own evolution. And in that witnessing, you find peace, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You've stopped asking the world to validate your worth. You've started realizing your very breath is proof of your divinity. In this final phase, you begin to move differently, not with urgency, but with reverence. You don't rush, you don't force, you flow. You walk into rooms and shift energy without speaking. You hold space for others not by giving advice, but by embodying truth. You've become the example, not the explanation. And that's the highest form of leadership, being so whole in yourself that your presence awakens others to their own wholeness. What's most powerful, though, is that you no longer fear the shadows, because you've danced with them. You've sat with your demons, made peace with your past, and reclaimed the parts of yourself you once abandoned. That reclamation is what makes you radiant, not the light alone, but the harmony of light and dark within you. You've become the bridge, the living paradox, sacred and raw, human and divine. Rising, always rising, not above the world, but deeper into it. And now, the question returns. The one that's echoed through your entire journey. Are you ready? But this time, it's not the universe asking you. It's you asking yourself, not from a place of doubt, but from a place of power. Because you know now you were never waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You were never waiting to be chosen. You are the choosing. You were never meant to follow the path. You are the path. What does it mean to rise, truly rise? It means shedding the need to be understood and embracing the truth that some parts of your journey were never meant to be explained. They were meant to be embodied. It means living from your soul, even when your mind doesn't have a map. It means choosing alignment over approval, purpose over comfort, truth over safety. It means walking forward, even when your hands are still shaking, because you know your soul is steady. This is what it means to be a shadow chosen one, not a title, not a label, a living initiation. A sacred contract with the universe to carry wisdom born of pain, to shine light forged in darkness, to speak truth that liberates not only yourself, but everyone who hears it. You become the proof that transformation is real, that rebirth is possible, that the fire is not the end, it's the beginning. So take one last look at who you were, not with regret, but with gratitude. Bow to the version of you that carried the weight, who survived the storms, who whispered, "I'll keep going," even when every part of you wanted to give up. That version of you was the cocoon. And now you are the wings. Rise, not quietly, not apologetically. Rise boldly, rise fully, rise as the truth you came here to embody. Because the world doesn't just need more light. It needs the ones who learn to shine through the dark. And that is you.